Hello. Welcome to the next session of Aunt Patty's Lavender Hour, where I'm talking to people who heavily influenced me or directly involved with my Lavender Country story. Today, we're talking to Calvin Murasaki. He has been my violinist in my San Francisco band for 20 years. And I know him really good, and he knows me probably better. Are you going to tell us how old you are?
Well,
No,
I'm
never mind.
I'm old enough.
Never mind. Calvin was born in Honolulu a while back, and he has a two-pronged journey to tell you. One is a musical journey, and another one is a spiritual journey. And they're both really interesting and really juicy. Let's
Yeah,
start with the spiritual. Where'd you hook up first?
my spiritual journey was when I was a youngin. I was about 3 or 4 years old, and my grandma, who reminded me of Granny in the Beverly Hillbillies, she was a rascal, but she had some skills. She would put her hands together in front of a Buddhist shrine. She had a little one in her bedroom, and I could feel these little beings come out of the door. It wasn't visible, but I could feel them stand around me. And that was my introduction. And I asked Granny, I said, "What's this? What? I feel these things." And she says, "Don't be afraid. They're related to, they're your ancestors. They're here to look after you." So that was my introduction to spirit.
Oh, they were your ancestors.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
cool.
I thought all the kids in the neighborhood could see these things, but no, they thought I was crazy. And then from then on, I started feeling and sensing things in spirit, people, spirits in body, like in live human beings, and spirits without bodies. That means, you know, you imagine seeing
You
things.
mean you could see spirits in a human body who had
Yeah,
passed? Is that what you
well,
mean?
no, both. I could
Oh,
see the spirit in the body, and then when they've passed, I could see the go. I guess you would call them ghosts. And then I could tell when a person would appear to the house, come to the house. I could kind of see them before they would come to the house.
oh.
Yeah, and it would upset mom because she didn't want me to do that. She thought it was nonsense, and she told me to grow up. But then, unbeknownst to her, the person that I saw coming to the house would actually come, and it would freak her out. So she told me to quit doing it. So, but
So
Granny
you
and I,
had to go underground, huh?
yeah, I had to go underground with Granny, and she used to say, "Let's go to the store and buy some candy." And so we did, and she would tell me more stuff.
You had this relationship with your grandmother for when did she pass?
She passed when I was a teenager. I think I was about maybe 13 or 14 around that
Uh,
time.
could
Yeah.
you still connect with her after she passed?
Um, yes, I could feel her presence. I could feel her presence very, very strongly. The person who really got in the way of that communication was my dad because he was in competition with me for her attention. I could feel that. She never could communicate with him. He would always put her down, and I would
Oh,
never
no
put her down.
wonder. Oh
Yeah.
dear.
So she connected and passed on a lot of that spiritual information to me.
This so-called competition with your father was
Right.
something that carried on.
It carried on, and as I got into my later teenage years, it just got worse and worse, and there was a lot of invalidation. It came out in invalidation, non-support, criticism, in everything I did, especially the things I really liked to do, and that was music. So he would try to sabotage it, and he would punish me for it, reprimand me for it, and I had to go into hiding to play my music.
Well, if your father wanted to stop you from doing music, he did a really piss poor job,
Yeah,
Calvin.
you did. And yeah, right. It was during those your reverse psychology years, when you do the opposite of what your parents tell you. And it worked.
Well, let's get into the music a little bit because
Sure.
the spiritual journey and the musical journey are really co-travelers through your whole life, right?
They are. They validated each other.
You started music when you were in school,
Yeah, I started
elementary school.
elementary school. It was first with the ukulele. We had ukulele class in Hawaii. In fourth grade. I remember that. And then shortly after that, there was an opportunity to play the violin. The reason why I got attracted to the violin is because I liked the smell of the violin.
You liked what?
The smell,
Oh,
the
the
odor.
smell.
Yeah, it was like old moldy pine, and I would smell it, and I would get high off of the varnish of the
You
violin.
were a sniffer, Calvin.
I was, and I would
You're a wolf in the violin.
and I would sniff the violin until I got high, and then I would start playing. Weird.
You were in the school orchestra, right?
I was in the school orchestra, and I practiced my head off, and I became the concert master in my middle school and my high school orchestra.
And then you were invited to play in the Honolulu Symphony Orchestra, right?
Right? I was in the Starlight concert, but I was actually asked to play as a soloist. And I was 16 years old at that time, and I won the solo competition, so I got to perform with a live orchestra, a professional orchestra, and it was a great
Oh,
experience. Really
uh-huh.
great experience, yeah.
All this time being sabotaged by your father?
Yeah, and what's really interesting
Oh my
is
goodness, Calvin.
he would not support me at all, but guess who was there in backstage to take all the credit? It was Dad. Yeah,
Oh,
he would never support me, and then but he wanted the credit for me getting the award. And then even from that point on, he would not validate my music. Yeah.
well, Calvin, I had a better dad than you.
I know you did. If I had known that, I would have asked you to trade.
I don't. Uh, that would have been a hard sell.
Yeah.
So then you went on to a university in Illinois, right?
Yeah, I was ready to quit music totally because University of Hawaii was a vacuum when it came to violin. So, but before I did that, Paul Rowland, my teacher to be, came and gave a workshop in Honolulu, and he says, "Don't quit music. Come and study with me." So, I applied to the University of Illinois. I got accepted, and I went over to the Midwest, and I continued my violin there. He was an internationally known violin pedagogue, and then he referred me to teach at the North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Wasn't it in North Carolina that you discovered a little pocket of fellow-minded
Yeah,
spiritual
the
folks?
North Carolina School of the Arts faculty were really interesting people. They were into meditation. They were into in that time, you know, um, the Beatles were into the Eastern philosophy, meditation, yoga, and
Uh-huh.
they decided to do Ekankar, which is a form of uh, astral travel, where you meditate and then you leave your body, and everybody travels out of their body together to a certain destination. And so, after being around them for a bit, I started leaving my body without any warning. I would leave my
Oh
body,
no.
yeah, and when I go to sleep at night, of course. And then I would walk out and I would look down at my body and almost walk out the door and was afraid that if I walked out the door, I'd never come back and I'd be dead. So that opened a lot of my sensitivities in my clairvoyance. but around people who were supportive and not controlling, unlike my mother.
Oh, that was a big breakthrough considering the way your parents handled it.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And then shortly after that, I moved over to the Bay Area, and there were a lot of people who were like-minded, who were telepathing to me and saying, you are kindred spirit. We are your spiritual brothers and sisters. So they helped me open me up.
This was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
And this, you were running with a group of Berkeley psychics.
Well, I had first studied with a teacher who was a disciple of Yogananda, who was one of the first Indian gurus who introduced yoga to spirituality, meditation to the West. And so he studied with him and was actually a former Catholic priest. And he opened my third eye up even more, my vision, clairvoyance. So I shortly then after went to the Berkeley Psychic Institute because they were very well organized and they had psychic fairs and demonstrations. So it was really great because then I was able to see and do a lot of things, and I even ended up doing several depossessions of people who were quote possessed, and what do you call haunted houses? Exorcism of haunted houses. I did about two or three of them in the Bay Area and two or three in Hawaii. And that was really great to be able to do that, to go into a place where people had died and there was not a completion or a closure, and they were still hanging around and causing grief with the people who were still living in that
Uh-huh. And so
place.
you were like, you went in and were able to help them out the door. Is that the idea?
Help them find closure and to go to where they need to go.
All the while you were doing music and teaching music.
Yeah, teaching music all the way through, and then I became a computer systems analyst in the corporate world for 15 years, and then but I kept my music on, and I kept my healing all together. It kept my sanity. The corporate world is really toxic.
I bet. Now I'm going to talk about how I met you.
Okay,
Okay, it's an interesting story.
yeah,
This is a paraphrase, and of course, I'm leaving out a lot. But you came to me 2 or 3 weeks after we had met, and you said, "Your dad told me that you're supposed to come and see me." And I didn't know who you were, and I didn't really know what that meant. And I don't believe in any of this psychic bullshit in the first place, right? And so I brushed it off. And we worked together with the band for a few more months. And you came up to me another time and you said something like, "I know you think I'm a charlatan, but I'm not. And I'm only going to tell you one more time, and I'm not going to tell you again. Your dad told me that you are supposed to come and see me." Now, you can take that and do whatever you want with it, but I'm done talking. And by that time, I had grown to know you a little better. And I knew whoever you weren't a phony. I knew that much. It was contradictory for me
yeah,
because I'm a Marxist and a dialectical materialist, and we don't believe in God
right,
and stuff like that.
right.
Um, so it was a challenge for me, but it got really interesting. One day I came to see you, and you said, "Today we're going to go see your folks." And my mother had been dead 6 or 7 years, and my father had been dead like 40 years. And it was a remarkable journey that you took me on that day? Oh, first we had, some hypnotic work and relaxing stuff. And then you said, okay, lay down on the table. And then you said, as soon as my hands touch you, I'm not even here. I'm just a conduit for your visit with your folks. And then you touched me. And both of my parents came rushing in, like phenomenally, like it really startled me. I don't know what happened that day, but I had such a beautiful time with my folks. They knew what my issues were, and they knew where they had, made mistakes or couldn't help me in my childhood. And they showed you where to help me. And my dad said he had to flip too many bales when he was a kid, and he strained his neck muscles and his back muscles, and they're frozen. And that's where the problem is. And I saw it. I saw the day that it happened, that I strained his neck and back muscles. And I'm sorry. And if you touch him there, it will work. And my mother said, it's his heart. It's his heart. I wasn't able to love him fully like I really needed to or wanted to. I kind of gave him a little bit of a short change because I was so busy and because I resented the fact that I got pregnant with him. And so you need to massage his heart because that's where he's hurting, right? Oh my. And all of this stuff was so real because my mother's confession was a real confession. And please don't get me wrong, I had a wonderful mother and I had a wonderful relationship with her. And this is only like 2% of her relationship with me, but she still knew this 2%. And I remember the day my father saw me straining my neck muscles. I know I was about 12 years old. I was flipping bales, and the 50th bale I flipped up, that was the one, and he saw it happen. The end of the session was we all started giggling, me and both of my parents were just giggling, and my parents weren't gigglers. And it kind of surprised me. It was like, why are we all laughing? And my mother said, the reason that we're all giggling is, number one, we're just so damn happy to see you. And this is the first time that me and your dad have ever been able to together be just with you and show you how much we love you, because we were so busy with all the other kids and all the work and all that, that you could have one of us or you could have the other of us, but you could never have both of us at the same time. And today you get both of us at the same time. And that's why we're giggling. And I came out of the trance and I was laughing. I was giggling on the table when I came out of the trance, and you were crying. And I said, Calvin, why are you crying? And you said, I would have given anything to have the father that you had. Oh my. So that was my heaviest duty experience with spiritual healing with you. But we've had many sessions of spiritual healing. And why don't you can talk now about what you were doing to calm me down on this Lavender Country journey.
As you had mentioned, you put it very well. I was a conduit. All was it was to help you move out all these blocks with your and conflicts, um, and all the fears of maybe becoming successful and what how to deal with it. All the ifs and buts. We helped clear it out. We helped clear that out. You had too many butts in your face, so we had to clear that out.
My take on it was that I needed to separate out the glory hounding, egocentric, star icon bullshit from the reason that I was doing Lavender Country in the first place. And that what you were helping me do was keep on point with my message. It's not, Lavender Country is not about me. It's about the social and political and spiritual, if you will, message that I'm trying to deliver to a culture that's really ailing and in desperate need of the message. In that way, I'm just a conduit.
Yes,
Exactly. And if I can see myself in that role and get the starstruck ego bullshit out of the way and let that conduit flow freely, then my message is much more on point and I'm a better performer.
exactly.
Well, Calvin, um, what I'm getting out of this interview is that it is really an honor to be associated with someone as musically and spiritually developed as you. You're not only a musical and spiritual mentor, but we're really good buddies at this point.
Yeah,
And, you know, we laugh and chortle and talk gay shit and all kinds of stuff in
yeah.
addition to the path that you've put me on. So it's been my good fortune to come across you. Are you going to play us a little jazz fiddle today?
Sure. I'll play a tune that you probably know. It's from your era. Hopefully not too long ago. But it's called Fly Me to the Moon. Do you know that?
Oh, Fly Me to the Moon, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, play it.
Here it is. And you can sing along if you like. Okay. It's in the key of C if you want to know.